Welcome to the Wards 4 and 7 and Jane. And thank you, Stephen and Jane, for serving. It was so good. Thank you, so good. Yeah, hope everyone had a chance to sign in and the late tag. And we will start off our meeting. We always start just reviewing our draft rules and adopting the agenda. There were a few at our welcome table, so hopefully there's a few floating around the tables. Our ground rules are that we listen to each other, treat others respectfully, share our opinion politely, and respect the agenda and process. And while we're talking about the agenda, I can share an update, which is that unfortunately we had a cancellation from Teresa Vizina, from the overdose prevention center. Updates. I'm not sure if there's any info that we can access through the city, but we will try to give you any updates as they come to us as the steering committee.
As well for now. But that is an amendment that's gonna happen. And now I think without further ado, we'll just move on to our first other point, which is our introductions. I'm Sarah or Sarah. I use she, they pronouns. I live in Ward 7 and I am part of the steering committee. And now I will invite people to introduce yourself with your name and pronoun if you choose. And if you have any elected position, you can go ahead and do that. And Stephen, and just save any announcements for our open forum. We'll have a chance to make any further announcements at that time. Take it away.
Like it's active from Ward 7. You couldn't hear me? Did you turn it off? Right, it's still on.
Is it on?
Yes.
Right.
I'm happy. I live in Ward 7.
Zoe, I live in Ward 7. I'm Monica, she, her pronouns, and I live in Ward 7.
I'm Karen Turner, Ward 4, she, her pronouns.
Kevin. Amy Biloski Branch, Ward 4.
Nancy Powers, Ward 4.
Sandra Gazo, Ward 4.
Carmen George, Ward 7, she, her, and I'm an elected official, justice of the peace. I marry people. I'm Casey Carpenter, and I'm Ward 4.
Dylan Shelby, Ward 7.
Lynn Eisenberg, Ward 7.
What? No.
Hi, Sarah George. I live in Colchester, but I'm happy to be here. Andy Kenny, Ward 4, she, her.
So, Ward 7, she. Bob Wright, Ward 7.
She, her. 7. Amy Stewart, Ward 7, she, her pronouns.
Mark, Ward 7, he, him, pronoun.
Emily, she, her, Ward 4, and I'm a huge fangirl of Sarah George. This is Lane, Ward 4.
My name is Bao.
Of Ward 4.
Matt, Ward 4.
Oh, we got one over here. Yeah.
She, her. Linda A. Ward 7, she, her.
Linda Air, Ward 4.
Jim Palmer, Ward 4.
Valley Growth, Ward 4. Voting in Wisconsin, though. So.
Thank you.
This is an, what, 4, well, I mean, 7.
Susan Sheehan, Ward 7.
Susan O'Doon, Shanghai.
Hank Prinsky, Ward 4.
Christine Sheehan. Kathleen Miles, Ward 7, she, her.
Ward 7.
She, her.
Carver, Ward 7, Ehem.
Sal Millichamp, Ward 7, she or they. Oh, my official position is Empress. Brittany Larrabee, Ward 4. I use she, her pronoun. I'm on the steering committee here. Sarah Carpenter, Ward 4 City Councilor, she, her. Sally Cook, she, her, Ward 7.
Mark Brown, District City Council.
Sabrina Ketter, Ward 4, she, her pronouns. Charlene Kibbins, Ward 4, she, her pronouns.
William King, Ward 4, he hit.
All right, did we miss anybody? Good. Great, anybody online? Good, okay, great. Great, thanks, everybody. So this is a perfect segue to our open forum. Now you've all held the microphone, try to speak directly into it like this. And now I will invite anybody to make announcements for upcoming events, announcements about what's going on in the city, in the neighborhood, anything you want to share with your neighbors in person right here. It's kind of in-person front porch forum, open forum. So just raise your hand, and if there's a microphone at your table, you can use that. Did you have something? Right, go ahead.
Hi, I'm with the North End Food Pantry, and I just want to give a quick update about what's going on at the food pantry. First of all, thank you to a few of you in here who are volunteers and or board members. We appreciate that very much. The use of the pantry has been increasing. We're now averaging between 175 and 200 people per weekend, which is quite a bit of increase from what we had been doing. And in support of serving all those people, I just want to make sure everybody knows we are having our clothing and food drive this coming Sunday from 11 to 1 o'clock. And so we're looking for clothes, men's pants for some reason, always a need, and food as well. With the clothing, we prefer things that have been freshly laundered and checked for rips and tears and so on. And for food, non-perishable food is great, and we prefer that it be not expired. So we appreciate that. Question?
Where is your location?
Thank you very much. We are at, I almost forgot the address, 1416 North Ave. So as going down North Ave, it is the very brightly colored building. That is the Odd Fellows Hall. And with the garden season starting, we certainly are also looking for fresh food. If people have some to donate from your gardens, best thing is Saturday and Sunday mornings between around 8 and 9, so we can have it ready to serve our guests when they arrive. And I think that's it. If people also want to check out our website, there's more information about donating and stuff there as well. Thank you.
Hello, friends. I'm that Ward 1 resident that snuck in. I'm here tonight because I'm running for office. I'm running for sheriff of Chittenden County.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm running in a contested Democratic primary on August 11th. And I'm the only person running for sheriff in the state of Vermont who advocates to abolish ICE. Thanks. If elected, I will also be the first transgender person in the history of America to be an elected sheriff. Thanks. I'm running on a platform of eviction reform through eviction prevention to keep children and families housed, get landlords paid, and create a safer community for all of us. I brought a little, thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I brought a little stack of my campaign lit, and maybe we could pass it around, take one, pass it along. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
And it's planned great. Thank you all so much. It's so fun to be here. What a nice meal. Thank you so much for cooking this delicious meal.
State your name.
My name is Kevin Bloom. Bloom like a flower.
Oh.
Thanks. Charlie, my guy.
One more announcement, right? Yeah, just use that.
I'm Amy Payne, and I'm running for High Bailiff of Chittenden County. Some of you signed my signature sheet so that I can be on the ballot. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Amy Payne, and I'm running for High Bailiff of Chittenden County. Some of you signed my sheet so that I could be on the ballot, and I appreciate that. And you can ask me about High Bailiff, because two tiny responsibilities: arrest the sheriff or step in the case that the sheriff is incapacitated while the governor appoints a new sheriff. There's also the potential to do community outreach and community development, and that hasn't been done before in Chittenden County. But it doesn't mean that it can't be done, and it feels really like a time where we want to create more community, more cooperation, and more conversation. So. Amy Payne, High Bailiff of Chittenden County.
Thanks, Amy. I actually have one person, Linda, you can go ahead first, and then Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Linda Air, I'm two, or one of four. I have stood before you all and.
Can't hear you.
I have stood before you and asked if anybody was interested in some direct action, nonviolent direct action. I'm a lousy organizer, you know, my father was one. So I'd love, after the meeting, if anybody wants to get together to talk, that would be great.
Thank you, Linda. Kathleen, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Miles. I live at Heineberg Senior Housing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Professor Alex Zakaris from UVM will present, and this is open to the public, at Heineberg Senior Housing. Heineberg Senior Housing. Thank you. His book, Freedom for All. The theme of the book is that we don't have freedom if we don't have money. And what a liberal democracy could look like with fair policies. It's open to all, and I imagine it will last an hour and 15 minutes. So there will be someone to let the public in the door.
Tell us what time again?
Repeat the details.
1 o'clock at Heineberg Senior Housing, 72 Heineberg Road. And that's not Heineberg, help me, Sarah, Heineberg Senior, whatever, it's Heineberg Senior Housing, the big building.
I'm sure there's gonna be time.
Perfect, thank you. Another announcement here?
Hi, I'm Amy Bielowski Branch. I'm running for the House of Representatives for Chittenden 18, which covers a lot of Ward 4 and Ward 7. Love to, if anyone wants to talk to me, come find me. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks a lot. Amy Bielowski Branch, Chittenden 18, House of Representatives.
Sweet.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Any other announcements? Right here, and Stephen, Rick? In case you haven't heard about Kevin Bloom, you could come to our house on June 11th at 5:30 and eat dinner with us and hang out with Kevin and ask Kevin questions and learn about the future that Kevin dreams for us and that I feel really, really excited about. And we may or may not have Nikhil and hang out with us too. So we've got a couple rad folks. That's June 11th at 5:30. And if you're interested in coming, you can come on over and I can give you our address and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody, Steve, Ward 7. I just also would want to support the North Avenue Food Pantry. We have been donating every Saturday or Sunday for a couple months straight now. We learned to go to Feeding Champlain Valley and take as much as they'll let us have, and we forward it to you guys. And then we go to Salvation Army and they give as much as they let us have, and we forward it to you guys. And a lot of the stuff that goes in this food also comes either from the Intervale Food Hub or the Intervale Community Farm. And we have our own little farm right at Lakeview Gardens South at Keesler Park. And so growing local food, keeping it local and feeding our fellow citizens. We have sent 450 meals to Champlain Place, which is down on the Chevron Road. It used to be a hotel. Now there's 50 people that aren't homeless anymore living there. And we pay it forward everywhere we can. And a lot of you do too. And so I love having good neighbors. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. We've got two more announcements, or three, Monica and then Gary and then Lynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Monica. I live in Ward 7 on Brandywine Street. Just wanted to announce that our neighborhood is having yard sales, our annual yard sales on Saturday, June 6th from 9 to 3. And then neighborhood potluck at 5:30 on Brandywine Street by Carmen's house.
Great, thanks for that. Go ahead, Gary.
I recently went to the BGV 2050 open house, which is envisioning what Burlington could look like 20 some years from now. And one of the areas that they are thinking about is to put housing on the entrance to Ethan Allen Park. And I feel strongly that parks should always remain parks, and we can deal with the housing issues in ways that don't compromise our park system. So I want you to know that as of right now, in that design work, there is housing slated to be at the entrance of Ethan Allen Park, which I think is a shame.
Thanks for sharing that.
Just
Hold on, we've got one.
follow up on that.
Do you mind if we just follow up on that?
I'm sorry. They've done bridges over the belt line, bridges to nowhere. So this would be pretty near the same thing, putting housing in a park, doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Go ahead, Lynn.
I want to follow up with what Steve was saying about the Intervale. I love volunteering over there. I was just there last week pulling weeds around their little trees. I was the only volunteer, so I would love to see more folks from the neighborhoods get out there. If you have friends, family, businesses, they arrange for businesses to bring employees out and have a day together. But they really could use the help because they've got trees and shrubs and vegetables. And then in August, September, they're gleaning, which is a riot because then you get to see all the beautiful vegetables that they planted that survived and they're just dying to find a home. So please go to the website, sign up, and ask anybody you know that wants to go with you. It's really nice out there. Wonderful people. Our Intervale Center. Yep, you're welcome.
Great. Thanks, everybody. That was awesome. And we are gonna continue on. Like I said, we will have a little bit of extra time because our presentation about the Overdose Prevention Center was canceled. So Sarah Torres wants a couple more minutes, but we also, our last item on the agenda is our NPA annual priorities. And so we are hoping to maybe add a little bit of time to that since we have such a great group of people and we can talk a little bit more. So that's the little update.
Is there somebody from the city who could talk to us about the overdose prevention center and where it is? No questions yet, but,
They canceled the
Yeah.
session we had.
Everyone
There's
thank
no location, sorry. We were to have a work session as well, and that also was postponed, so we actually don't have any more information. There is no location, so, you know, we need to be clear about that. The work session was intended for the counselors to really ask a lot of questions. There is a final report and it is online. And if I can get it to somebody if they want to see it, it's long. And so we had hoped that we would get more detail out of the report. I also think there's continued discussions at the state around how the funding will work. And given that the legislature's in its 11th and a half hour, that may be slowing some stuff around. So again, Mark and I don't have any really more updated information because I think they're waiting for a couple different things. And as soon as we know, we will let you know.
Yeah, I'll say that, I mean, our steering committee was in touch with Teresa Vizina, and hopefully this is also a postponing and that we can invite, or that she can be available to make a presentation in the future. But right now, unfortunately, she wasn't available.
No longer works for the city, so she's doing consulting work. She's sort of has said she would remain doing some oversight. City is in the process of trying to hire somebody who will be the coordinator. So we're a little stretched on the staff side as well, and that may have influence because I'm not sure, you know, what Teresa's schedule's like.
I just work with Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform, which is going to be the organization that will be operating the Overdose Prevention Center, and we will be doing a robust community outreach that will include NPAs. So I just wanted to reassure folks. If you have more questions, you can come to me after, but I just wanted to mention that for sure.
Thank you for all that. So we did have a little update. But without further ado there, I will invite Sarah George to introduce herself and running for Chittenden County's state attorney position.
Good evening, everybody. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. What a great turnout. And those announcements like really filled my cup. You guys are all doing some really incredible stuff. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah George. I'm the Chittenden County State's Attorney. I started as a prosecutor in the Chittenden County office straight out of law school back in 2011. So over about 15 and a half years ago. I became the elected state's attorney the same day that Donald Trump became our president the first time, January 20th, 2017, which was an incredible moment for me and a terrible moment for most of the country, including me. I got officially elected in 2018 and then again in 2022. So I am up for re-election. I have a contested primary, but I really am just here to talk to you guys about what you want to know if you all have questions. I don't have a slideshow. I'm just here to talk to you all as community members. I want to hear from you. What do you want to know? What is on your minds? I'll start by just sort of explaining where we're at as an office and where I think that we're doing really well as an office, and then where I think there is still work to do. In 2017, when I became the state's attorney, our community was going through a significant uprise in overdose fatalities. And as prosecutors, we're actually the people that have to. Let's use this one instead. Prosecutors get called for every single untimely death that occurs in our county. So everything from an overdose death, a suicide, someone who dies at old age in their sleep, and and homicides. And as a deputy state's attorney, I was getting those calls all the time for people dying from fatal overdoses. And it was something that I just didn't feel like the community in general was talking enough about. So I organized a group of specialists in the field and community organizations that were working on drug services and community outreach related to people who were using drugs. And ultimately, we, as a community, with me in the partnership with the hospital and Burlington Police Department and Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform, I made a policy to continue not to prosecute buprenorphine anymore, which is a drug that is used to help people get out of addiction. And it was a life-saving drug that we were criminalizing people for possessing. And so I made a policy that I would no longer prosecute that drug. And yes, it was very successful in the sense that we were able to, again, work with the hospital to get more buprenorphine into our community. Our overdose deaths that year dropped by over 50%. Yes, and the state went on to make it state law. So that policy was really impactful, not just in literally saving people's lives, but it went on to become statewide policy. And I say that, or statewide law. I say that because what we do in Chittenden County really matters. It doesn't just impact Chittenden County, it impacts a lot of people around the state. And in fact, several of my counterparts in other parts of the country, in Washington, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, all mimicked and copied my policy and then pushed for the law in their own states. And then 2020 hit, and as we all know, it just flipped our world upside down. Drug abuse and addiction skyrocketed, housing crisis occurred. We have the fourth largest homeless population in Vermont in the country. We are fourth in the country for the most unhoused people. And that stemmed from COVID. The courts closed on March 15th of 2020, and most other state organizations and state agencies opened back up within a year. The courts were closed for 2.5 years. We did not reopen our courts, and by that I mean have a trial, because we could not bring that many jurors into our small spaces. So we didn't have a trial for over 2.5 years, statewide, which meant that far more cases were coming into our office from law enforcement than we were able to resolve. And it led to a massive backlog of cases, again, statewide, but certainly in Chittenden County. By the time we reopened in 2022, we had over 3,000 cases pending in our office, with 8 attorneys practicing criminal law, and over 1,000 of those were considered backlog cases. 2022 was also a horrifically violent year in our state. We had a record number of homicides. In Chittenden County, we had 26 gunfire incidents, violent crime rose, things were really bad. So by the time the courts did reopen, our entire focus became on resolving our violent crimes, including our homicide cases, which took us about 3.5 years to do. And I am, proud is a weird way to say it, but I'm grateful that now today, all of those gunfire incidents have resolved. Most of our homicide cases have resolved either through trial or plea negotiations. We have 3 homicide cases pending right now, whereas in 2022 we had 9. And our caseload is back down to a much more manageable number. We have about between 1,500 and 1,700 pending cases. And about 250 or 260 of those are considered backlog, a much, much more manageable number. And we were able to get that number down in part because of the governor's help on our accountability docket. He brought in, at my request, he brought in an extra prosecutor, an extra judge, and opened an extra literal courtroom in our courthouse, and allowed anybody with 5 or more dockets pending, the sort of quote unquote repeat offenders that our community is really struggling with, brought all of those cases, all of those people in through this additional courtroom that we didn't have the ability to do in our regular courtrooms because of our prioritization of the violent crime. And in about 4 months, they were able to resolve about 700 cases. Secondary to that, I applied for and was given a grant from a national organization called the Vera Institute, and I developed an alternative diversion program that allowed people, again, people with substance use issues in particular, to enroll in a contingency management program with Runners for Criminal Justice Reform. And if they engaged in that program and they went to that program every single week and they did not commit any new offenses, they would get paid for going in. They would literally get an incentive for showing up. We didn't pay them, the grant paid them, it was somebody else's money, but it was money well worthwhile. To give somebody, I think it was $28, sometimes up to $48 a week to engage in services, not use as many drugs, or in some cases not use any drugs, apply for housing, apply for jobs, and not commit harm in our community. I would spend that money every day. And we were able to resolve over 400 cases through that. So today, things, our community is still struggling. Again, we have a significant unhoused population that is struggling. We are seeing that struggle firsthand when we walk down some of our streets. And, I'm very committed to working with legislators to fix that problem. But I will be clear that I do not believe it is a prosecutor's job to fix poverty, right? That is, and as much as we want to rely on the criminal legal system, we are not capable of it. We are lawyers, we are not social workers, we are certainly not housing experts. And even if we were, there is no housing for most of the folks that we are dealing with in the courthouse. So I do want to be really clear on that. I think that we have got to figure out how to be meeting these folks' basic needs. Talking about the increase in numbers at our food shelves, 150, 200 people a weekend being served by one of our many food shelves. People are really struggling. And until we figure out how to prioritize meeting their basic needs, they may continue to engage in other harm in order to get what they need. I'm not condoning that, but I am never going to fix the problem if we think that jail and spending $312 a day to house somebody in a correctional facility that is proven to actually cause more harm and make people more likely to commit crimes when they are released is not a good use of our money. Currently, Vermont taxpayers spend $512,000 a day to incarcerate our incarcerated population. And a significant number of those are being incarcerated for nonviolent offenses. So if we think about the sort of bang for our buck, we could be doing a lot better job. $500,000 every single day we are spending to incarcerate people, many of which on nonviolent offenses. And many of which, because they can't pay $100, $200, or $300 cash bail. We are spending more money to house them than every single day than they have cash bail applied to their case. So, yes, go ahead, Emily.
Opportunities for us, to gather around the cash bail idea.
Can you ask that into the microphone?
Yeah.
Are there ways for us to engage with the cash bail issue of could we collectively decide we want to cash bail these people out so that we aren't spending this much money per day?
You certainly can. There are bail funds in Vermont. The Freedom Fund is certainly the biggest one. Lisa Barrett runs that fund. She's a one-woman organization right now, and she is bailing folks out every day when she can. But it isn't a significant amount of money for most folks. I think the problem right now is that when that's happening, there isn't a lot of follow through with those individuals because they don't have phones, they don't have homes, they don't, they're more concerned about where they're gonna sleep or eat than they are their next court date. And so I am trying to figure out ways where the community or anybody can really help also then get those folks to court, right? Because the problem is if they don't, the court will just set higher bail the next time. And it's, again, not a good use of the money. But certainly there are ways. There is legislation nearly every session about reducing or eliminating the use of cash bail. In 2020 or 2021, I wrote a policy that my office and my prosecutors do not ask for cash bail. But it is not up to prosecutors. It is ultimately up to judges, and our judges do impose it. But they, most of our judges currently are prior defense attorneys, so they don't use it as much as they could, and they certainly don't use it as much as I know other counties do. And our counties interact a lot with other counties. So I would much rather those folks be connected to services than be sitting in jail. And again, I want to just stress the research is very, very clear that when somebody goes into jail on a nonviolent offense, even one day, they are more likely, 6 to 9% more likely to commit violence when they are released because of the exposure to violence and isolation that they experience in jail. So it's not just, it is actually making all of us less safe by thinking that $100, $200 cash bail on an individual that we know can't pay it is going to make us more safe.
Hi. So I think I'm trying to untangle myth and reality about you because, I would hear like a crime happens in Burlington and people are like, well, Sarah George won't prosecute them. So I would love to hear if you've heard about yourself and what your thoughts are on these things.
I've heard about myself. I do stay out of the comments now, I will tell you that. Yeah, I think that disinformation in our community about public safety is intentional. I will start with that. In the 2022 election, things were really bad. Things were bad in our community. There was a rise in violence statewide, and people wanted someone to blame for what they were seeing and what they were feeling, which was unsafe in our communities. And it is a lot harder to blame like an entire system or to blame judges who are appointed, lifetime appointments, or to blame law enforcement, people that are not elected. It is much easier to blame one person that they think is responsible or that they think can take that blame. In 2022, again, all the law enforcement unions endorsed my opponent, and so many were on body cams endorsing and pushing for my opponent while they were working, telling witnesses that we were not going to prosecute, and telling witnesses that don't bother reporting this because Sarah's office won't prosecute. Really, really dangerous stuff was happening in an effort to get my opponent elected. I have no real concerns about that as much this time around, mostly because Chief Burke will not tolerate that in a way that Chief Murat did. And in fact, I know from friends of mine at BPD encouraged that. The environment at BPD changed immediately when Chief Burke was put in that position. So I am feeling a lot more optimistic about this round because it takes 5 seconds to lie about somebody and it takes me years. I mean, literally, I am still working on correcting the record from 2022. And it is so harmful to the community. And I do worry because I have an opponent in this election, that narrative is going to happen again. And I'm trying to get ahead of that by just getting as many facts out as I can. The reality is I am also a full-time prosecutor. I am busy. I was supposed to start the Jason Eaton trial on Monday. That is my case. I am trying that. The guy that shot the 3 Palestinian boys. Like, I have a full caseload, and court is public. Every single thing that anybody ever says to you about something they think happens, you can email me and I will send you the documentation. Everything we do is public. You can come to court on any day and watch all the prosecution happening. And I don't say that to brag about it. I don't think that that's something we should be bragging about as a community, that yes, I am in fact prosecuting people. But I am. It is my job, and I do it, right? You know, I said we have 1,500 to 1,700 cases pending. We have a full staff that is working tirelessly. So when people insult me or lie about me, they're actually lying about every single person in my office. And that's nearly 30 of us, including really hardworking victim advocates that are meeting with victims all day, every day, trying to help them with the harm that was, came upon them. And if you see something in the media, the media is obsessed with Burlington. You all, I'm sure, are aware of that. I'll give one example. In 2022, when we had 26 gunfire incidents, there was a news article about Burlington every single weekend. Every single new gunfire incident. And at the end of 2022, I was down in an all states attorney meeting, talking to some of my counterparts. And I learned in that meeting that in 2022, Bennington, the town, not even the full county, the town of, I think, 6,000 people had 17 gunfire incidents that year. There wasn't a single article about it. Not one. That's the power of the media. The way in which people feel safe depends on how a place is portrayed. And that is not to minimize what was happening in our community, that is for sure. But the distinction between all of these different communities around the state blaming Burlington and therefore blaming city council or blaming the progressives or blaming me was actually a huge disservice to the rest of the state that was experiencing these same things, and nobody was paying attention. So all that to say, I'm trying. It's why I'm in these spaces. It's why I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can to just make sure that there are going to be things that people don't agree with me on. But my policies, every single one of my policies is on my website. Every case is on the website, or is a public case. Some people just, you can give them the facts all day and they just don't listen. Especially if it's coming from me. They're just not going to listen. And I think that that's a really unfortunate reality. It's the reality of our social media. It's the reality of our media in general. People will believe a lie far, far faster than they'll believe the truth.
We have a couple more questions. I think Sal had one, and then Jim and Lizzie.
Hi, I just wanted to say, I so appreciate your transparency. And I love the interview that you did with David Goodman.
Yeah.
And you answered everything very clearly about the fiasco in South Burlington and how some people were upset, but you made it clear why you did not prosecute. And I really appreciate how you explained that so clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, those cases I did not prosecute. That was pretty obvious and public that I did not prosecute those cases. I'm happy to answer any questions about that as well.
I'm a volunteer with the Burlington Community Justice Center, and I'm interested in which your department makes referrals to, as well as the court making referrals, and sometimes the police department. I'm interested what role you see that making, what you hope to accomplish, or what you hope that arrangement to accomplish.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, so Chittenden County is really lucky to have a really robust community justice center sort of system. We've previously had 4, I believe, if not more, through the county that covered every town in the county. One was in South Burlington, one Essex. Burlington had one, Williston had one. In South Burlington, Winooski used to have one. They sort of pulled it into the Burlington. And legislation passed last year that is taking effect, I think, on July 1st, that is now consolidating all of them into one community justice center, the Chittenden County Community Justice Center. And that will be available for any charge that comes to our office or direct referrals from law enforcement to be sent through a restorative justice process in lieu of prosecution. It can also happen during prosecution, parallel to it. It can happen as part of probation. There's a lot of ways you can use restorative justice. But the primary way is a pre-charge in lieu of prosecution. I am an enormous advocate of restorative justice processes over the legal system. It gives victims an actual voice in the process that centers them as the person in the process, where our legal system does the opposite. Everything is about the defendant and defendant's rights. Victims, when they do go to trial, especially if there's like a domestic aspect to it or a sexual aspect to it, they get dragged through the process. It is so traumatizing. The outcomes are rarely what anybody wants, and the victims really don't have a great voice in it. Restorative processes centers the victims. They have all the say in how the process goes, how much they're involved or not involved, and they're 88% more likely to be satisfied with the outcome than if they go through the criminal legal system. So if anybody tells you that going through a restorative justice process is like a slap on the wrist or doesn't care about victims, it is the opposite. They only care about victims and making sure that the person who caused harm is the person responsible for healing that harm. And that, Danielle Surratt wrote a really great book about it, and she compares it to not just saying you're sorry, but doing sorry. I compare it to when I was younger and my parents would ground me. I'd get so mad and I would just want to do it again when I got off being grounded, which only happened once, but I remember it very clearly because I felt wronged. I was mad. My brother didn't get in trouble for doing the same exact thing. And I did. I was so mad, and I just wanted to do the same thing when I got out of my bedroom. That's like our typical legal system. It's just like about punishment, and it doesn't actually, people that are in it feel like everybody's just out to get them, and then their basic needs aren't met, and they go out and they do the same thing again. Restorative justice is like when my parents used to tell me they were disappointed in me, which is the worst. And it was so much harder to cope with. When you go into a restorative justice process as the person who caused harm, you have to take responsibility. Most people don't recognize in the legal system, you actually don't ever have to take responsibility. Your attorney will do all the talking for you. The only thing you might have to say is guilty. That's it. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to explain why you did the thing you did. You don't have to explain how you're not going to do it again. None of those things are a part of our legal system, and they should be, because that's actually what works. When people are in a restorative process, they sit there, they have to think about what happened. They have to explain to this person that they harmed why they did it and how they're going to make sure they don't do it again. And the victim gets to say whether or not that's sufficient for them and be a part of the conversation. In the legal system, they're immediately separated. They're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to have any contact. In fact, if they do, it's a new criminal charge typically for the person who did the harm. And again, victims are 88% more likely to be satisfied with the outcome. That is a statistic that I hope would get everybody behind restorative justices and community justice centers. So I'm really excited for the consolidation. I know that some of the smaller centers were pretty upset about it because they felt like it was being taken from their community. But I am actually hopeful that previously the different centers were pretty inconsistent. And so it was hard to sort of know when a particular case and how a particular case was going to be treated by that center. Now I feel like having it all consolidated in one place will have a lot of really great consistency, and we'll know that every case is being treated and really like being prioritized by the center. And they have a beautiful new space. If anybody is downtown, it's right across from the Turning Point Center. So you can do both really great spaces. But I would definitely check it out. It's a restorative place in itself. The previous place was like really dark and dungeony and not restorative at all. This one has huge windows, lots of light coming in, lots of really beautiful space. It is, yes, South Winooski Avenue, like on the south side of Main Street. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Oh, in the new building.
Yeah, in the new building.
Yeah.
Yes.
New apartment building.
Yeah.
We did have another question over here. And Lizzie?
Hi.
Hi.
Excuse me. To go back, if we could, for just a minute to the bail issue. But it also ties into a lot of what we've been talking about right now in terms of accountability and restorative justice. So I might be like very naive with this idea. But I'm gonna give it to my best shot. Well, what if those who could not afford bail, and there are a lot, what if they were required to do some community service in lieu of that, or something similar to that, in terms of some sort of, I mean, is that possible?
It's certain, we have, as a sentence, we have something very similar to that. It's called an alternative community sentence. It used to be called work crew, and now it's people get sentenced basically to community service. And if they don't do the community service within a certain number of days, they go to jail. So it's still a punitive sentence overall, but people have to plead guilty, you know, I mean, in order to be sentenced to community service. So every single person being held on bail is innocent. Every single one of them has not been convicted of a single crime. And so it limits our ability to make them do anything because the government cares about the presumption of innocence, and we need to wait until sentence in order to do something like that.
Well, I hear you there, but if they're gonna have to go to jail because they don't have the bail, that's a punishment without them. So, I mean,
agreed.
Why can't you just dovetail it into something constructive?
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I don't know how we would, as the state, compel somebody to do something.
We'll give them a choice, jail
Yeah.
or community service while
Yeah.
you're waiting.
Yeah, you know, I love it. I don't know how to do it, but I'll think about it. One thing that so when the governor's accountability court moved on to Rutland, and I think now it's in Brattleboro, we really wanted to figure out a way to keep it happening with the resources that we had. And so I met with the court and we came up with what were like Friday court. So the accountability court with the governor was every single day. And that was the beauty of it at the time because you needed it to be for the number that they were dealing with. But then that number went down significantly after they resolved so many cases, and what left us with about 20 people with 5 or more dockets pending. So now we have those cases on every single Friday. And the beauty of having it every Friday and having that flexibility in our court schedule is that when somebody is brought in on a warrant or fails to appear for court and then shows up, when the judge might otherwise set bail because they didn't show up for court, they're now setting it for the very next Friday. And then they're making that person come back every single Friday. And we have AHS through Howard Center in the courtroom with us. So there's a caseworker in the courtroom who's meeting with people, who's filling out housing applications with them, filling out residential treatment screenings for them, getting them into our treatment court. The work that typically between leaving court and having to get to the Howard Center is lost is now happening inside the courtroom. And we are seeing that work. Like people that when you would give them a court date 3-6 months out, they wouldn't show up and they'd have 3 new cases. Now they're showing up every single Friday because they don't have to worry about what was the court date? They just have to know they have to come in on Friday, and we give them the same exact time. Your time is 9 a.m. on Friday. We will see you here next week. And sometimes they come in at 10 or 11. And like, you know, there still has to be some flexibility there. They are coming in. Me and the court are there at 8:30 and we're there till 4:30 every single Friday. And we have seen so many people get into housing, get into residential, get into treatment court that never would have before with the amount of time that was passing between cases. And I'm working with law enforcement to make sure they know who is in our Friday docket so that they aren't waiting to send us cases. If you have an incident on Church Street with this person this week, I need to know about it today. Like you need to tell me before Friday. So we're trying to speed up the amount, like that communication as well. It's going really well.
Mine is just a direct follow-up. Who created that Friday court? Whose idea was that?
It was mine.
Thank you.
So you said there's a fund that you can donate money to in order to help out the
Yes.
community.
Yes, it's called the Vermont Freedom Fund.
Okay.
Lisa Barrett runs the program and she's statewide. So, you know, I think right now there's near 200 women incarcerated. I know she prioritizes bailing out women from the women's facility. And then I think goes on from there. I'm not sure how she chooses. I haven't been a part of that process, but that is the name of the fund and they are always taking donations.
We have time for a couple more questions, one right here.
Go ahead.
So I ran a restorative justice program and I completely believe in its efficacy. And I thought your solution to Dorset Street was brilliant. And what I would love to hear is why you think the police wouldn't enter into restorative justice work. And if there's hope for more restorative justice in situations like that.
Can't hear you. Yeah, so the question was talking about restorative justice in the 3 Burlington Police Department cases that I got related to the March 11th ICE kidnapping. I sent those cases or referred those cases to our Burlington Community Justice Center. And my expectation in that referral was that law enforcement would also come to the table and have a conversation with the protesters. And Burlington Police Department declined to be a part of the process. So the question is, I think, why do I think they did that? And if I see any hope for future restorative practices. I don't know why there was no explanation given by Chief Burke. I really want to say again, I have the utmost respect for Chief Burke. We get along very well. We've worked together for 15 years. My very first homicide case, he was the detective at BPD. I have known him a long time. I have great respect for him. And I don't want to speak for him. But I will say that I've had a lot of conversations with Burlington police officers that were at March 11th, and several of them told me they wished they could have been a part of it. So my guess, reading between the lines, or my assumption, is that there is liability concerns with engaging in a conversation where they might admit wrong. But I don't know. I really don't know. And I do think it's unfortunate. I think that it would have been a really incredible conversation if they'd went into it with open hearts and really an ability to have that conversation. Unfortunately, I think the opportunity is gonna arise again. I don't see this issue stopping anytime soon, and I don't see my response being all that different moving forward, as long as the incidents are nonviolent. So I'm hopeful that that will change over time, but I don't know. I made the offer to the protesters that I would go instead and have that conversation. And so I don't know whether that will happen. But I'm also not, I am law enforcement. I'm the chief law enforcement of the county, but I'm not a cop.
Yep.
And I think that there is beauty in it being law enforcement officers in that space, hearing from the people that were involved.
Thank you. One more question or comment from Sylvia?
Yes. It would be a good time for us to donate to the Vermont Freedom Fund. You can go online and get their address. They use PayPal rather than MasterCard. But you can also send a check to them. The address is Sherman Howell, Huntington, Vermont. And There was something else that was just one of the thought that I wanted to pick up on.
Restorative justice.
Anyway, I urge you all to donate to the Vermont Freedom Fund. I helped started a number of years ago.
And I want to just also highlight that, you know, I don't believe in cash bail. I am unapologetically against cash bail as a public safety tool. And like our community members that cash bail is being imposed upon need help. They need their basic needs met because we have really, I think, harmfully intertwined public safety with homelessness.
Yes.
In a way that is unsafe for those people and is creating a feeling of unsafety that I think is hurting all of us in the way that we just exist and feel about that issue.
Did you remember?
I know what the thought was.
Great.
You're talking about the police and violence. I don't think this is really on.
It is. It is.
I
can give you this one.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Here, why don't you use this one?
So, several years ago, I went to a police commission meeting and heard some description of the training that police receive, of the number of hours dedicated to what kind of training. And the largest part of their training is on physical control and violence, how to deal with violence and using force, how to use force. There's very little about communication. Very few hours dedicated to that skill, much more to force. Sorry.
No, okay. Yeah, one more question, and then we'll move on.
I have a kind of naive question, but when you talk about court, are you talking about the court on Main Street or the court on Elmwood Street? And what's the difference?
Neither.
The courthouse on Main Street is our civil courthouse. So anytime you're like suing somebody, that is where you would go. The court on Elmwood is our federal courthouse. So that's where our U.S. Attorney's office is and where all of our federal prosecutors are. My office is on Cherry Street in the Costello Courthouse, which is across from the downtown Burlington High School / Macy's. That big building on Cherry Street, between Cherry and Pearl Street. And my office is within the courthouse. So we're on the 3rd floor of that courthouse, and the first 3 floors are all courtrooms. Yeah, and that's all criminal. So every single criminal case is prosecuted there. My office also handles all of the CHINS cases, so children in need of supervision. So if DCF is taking custody of a kid, it goes through our office, and every juvenile delinquency. So anybody from 13 to technically 22 in some circumstances is treated in our family court, which is also in that courthouse. It also houses the environmental court, which seems to be still fully remote. So I don't never see anybody there, but it is technically in the same building. I think we're in.
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for putting in your request to present here today.
Thank you, everybody.
Move that up there, and I'll invite, thank you, Sophia. I'll invite, Annie Lawson from our steering committee, to talk to us about the NPA annual priorities, what those are, what we can do as a group, and then we'll touch base on our June meeting at the end.
Thank you. The very, very quick headline about this is it's about how to give the NPAs more teeth and more actual like power in our local government. Power is a little bit of maybe not quite the best word, best I can come up with. So it sounds kind of boring, but it's not. So influence, that's great. Yes, how to give this little group more influence.
Nice.
Thanks. Okay, so the background behind this, and Barbara, I may need your help. Actually, let me back up a little bit further. Before we start talking about something much more local than the whole county, I just want to highlight a few teeny tiny changes to our NPA steering committee from last time. So last meeting in April, we did our voting in of the steering committee, and I just want to touch base on the fact that Gary has since realized that timing conflicts don't work, but Gary put out the signs for this one, so thank you, Gary, for that. And also Barbara, it looks like, thank you, Barbara. And then also want to acknowledge that last month when we were voting on steering committee members, we were remiss in not mentioning that Jane had stepped down prior to that vote. And so also want to acknowledge the work that Jane has done over the last year, especially as a treasurer. We are gonna not be as well organized now that she's gone. So a little bit of other history about the NPAs. These were created under the Bernie Mayor administration, and I don't know the exact year, and that's where maybe Barbara, you may be able.
1982.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And also for those of you who don't know, Barbara is the person who upholds the city end of these meetings. We couldn't put them on without her. She gives us conflict support. Not just for questions like that, but all the infrastructure of making these things work. So in 1982, my understanding is when these were created, they had a lot more team. And so my understanding is there was a much more robust budget. There was more leniency and fewer restrictions over how the budget could be spent. And so I don't have any clear examples of Barbara. If you want to chime in with any, please feel free, but I don't want to put you on the spot too much. Tell me if you do, otherwise I'll just keep going. Okay.
At least to me. The NPAs used to have full control over the city's federal grant money, which is known as the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Funds. So each of the wards would have like $15,000 or $20,000 in 1980s money to spend directly on projects that would better the wards. And these days, the budget is only $3,000 per ward, and it can be used to promote the NPA pretty much. So that's so that's what we're working with these days. Yeah. Thank
you. Okay. So there was a lot more people, there was a lot more direct, like visible, real concrete, tangible impact that NPAs could have in their community very directly without having to go outside the space of these NPA meetings. And so it seems like there's a bit of an effort to try to restore a little teeny tiny bit of that autonomy and teeth. And again, I don't have as many details about this bit, but there was a resolution passed, I believe, last year in 2025. And city councilors, please feel free to add context that I may not have, but my understanding is it was introduced by Councilor Newbieser, or Newbieser. I'm actually not sure what is the current, thank you, Newbieser. And part of that NPA resolution is to require the NPAs every year to come up with a list of NPA priorities that are identified and voted upon by attendees and residents of the wards. It sounds like at this point, the implementation of the resolution is still kind of being created and formalized and kind of still under construction. But it sounds like at this point, what the NPAs are being tasked with is identifying what our priorities are. And then the next step is to figure out what is the city council kind of required to do with those priorities that have been formally identified. But it's a way, this whole aspect of the resolution is a way to kind of formalize and make more clear and consistent the real working relationship between the NPAs and the city council. And so there was a meeting about this, I don't know, a month ago with all the different wards. And in the context of that meeting, you know, what does the word priority mean? People can mean that and understand that in different ways. But it sounds like the way it's being understood currently is that the things we identify as priorities are then going to be the things that our elected councilors are going to know that we would like to participate in discussions about those topics. Another way that it was said at that meeting is that if something is labeled as a priority, it means that the NPA is asking that whenever city council discusses these topics that we've identified formally as our priorities, we would ask that they don't make any decisions about those topics without first talking with us and hearing the thoughts of residents. And again, though, that is an informal definition. It's how it was being used in that meeting, but it seems as though, as this resolution is being implemented and kind of hammered, the details are being hammered out, that seems to be the working definition. So, another thing that's in the process of being formalized is when each NPA votes on these, and it sounds like in future years, this is just the very first year since this resolution was passed. In future years, the hope is that there will be some consistency and uniformity about when all the NPAs vote on their priorities and identify them and communicate them to City Council. This year, we're all kind of learning how to implement it, and so it seems like the voting will be happening at different times. We're not voting on anything tonight. There's not enough notice. We didn't warn that in the agenda, and it would be outside the rules of the meeting to have a vote if we didn't really make people aware that that would be happening. But what we do want to do tonight is just to start to brainstorm and get a bit of a temperature check. And the way we thought about doing this is just totally open up the forum and just hear what ideas people have about the things that we would like to agree as our formal priorities. And we'll write them on the whiteboard and we can kind of start to get a gauge of which ones have a lot of interest, which ones don't. And it's not a vote, but it's a way to just start to think, okay, where can we pick this discussion up again when we come back to it? And one last thing I'll add about these priorities, and then I'll pass over the mic. It's also a tool to help the steering committee think about how to structure our meeting agendas throughout the year. So right now, largely what we do as we make our agendas is we just receive requests from presenters who say, we want to get the word out about this. Can we come talk at your NPA? But when we will have had really direct input from community members, we can feel kind of like we will have a mandate to go out and start to invite people and say, hey, the residents of wards 4 and 7 really want to know about this issue. Who's a local expert on it? And can we invite them to come? So it'll help make these meetings hopefully more meaningful and more relevant too, when we have the really clear information about what people want to hear about. I think maybe a question and then we can start brainstorming.
I'm wondering, why is it only $3,000? And what happened to that money?
Really good.
Because I was a recipient of some of that money, and that whole process is so exciting for the community, because you might only be asking for $1,000, but the fact that you have $1,000 available to do something in your immediate community is marvelous. And what happened to the money?
I don't know. I'm sorry, that's a disappointing answer. I've been on the steering committee for 2 years and that budget was set when I got here. I don't know if, I know Barbara, you haven't been in this role since that budget change was made, but you're really good at the history. Do you have any answer about any of it?
The history. So the CDBG money is still around. It's still a federal grant program and it's administered by CEDO. They have a committee that is actually comprised of a lot of NPA members. So I think, back in the fall, wards 4 and 7, I think appointed 1 or 2 folks to that committee. At least most of the wards are asked to do so. So that process is ongoing throughout, I think, this spring. It's just not directly controlled by the NPAs. And the current budget of $3,000 is allocated by the city council as part of the general fund. So the $20,000 available for Ward 7 is still available. And if you go through all the hoops that they're making you go through now, you might be able to get some of it. Yeah, my understanding is that community groups apply for that pot of money and then the committee allocates it. And I think it's partially because the federal grant landscape is a lot more complex than it was in the 80s. So it requires a lot more kind of coordination.
Sarah was hoping to add a little bit in.
It's really a function of we just get considerably less money with a lot more rules. And the ability to use it let's go use softer stuff, for lack of a better word, has just been diminished by the rules of the CDBG program. And so to give, and I'm guessing a little bit, give this NPA that amount of money, we didn't really work with CDBG funding. The rules are incredibly confining, and there's a lot less of it. So you'd have to move to general fund money, which is very scarce. So it's just the change. And we had a lot of, before that, we had revenue sharing, and then we had a lot of CDBG in the 80s, and it just diminished.
So actually, let me add something. So it's true that I'm Charlie G from Ward 2. And I've been around the NPAs for a long time. And so the thing is, so the NPAs did have a lot of control over that money early, and it sounds like a large number. And I don't know which administration it changed other. I'm pretty sure it was Clavel's, but I'm not sure. So what happened is the amount of money per NPA dropped almost to zero. Okay. And then slowly over the years, it went $100 per year, $200 per year, $300 per year, as late as like the year 2000. Then all of a sudden around the year 2000, it jumped to like 2000. And then like a year later, it went to 2,500, and then it went to 3,000. But that money is regulated so that now that money can only be used to support the NPAs. So you've got to use it for meeting space or food or advertising or something like that. So it's not like the old days where you had $20,000 that you could basically portion out to different groups in your community. So now it's much more restricted than it was in the past. And another one, back around the year 2010 or so, the money to support the NPAs went from being federally provided to a general fund in the city of Burlington. And that happened around the year 2010 or 2015 or somewhere in there. And that's when the city really started saying, you have to spend the money in a certain way just on the NPAs. Because up to that point, we were giving money to park projects and to food projects and things like that, which we can't do anymore. Thank you.
Thanks for all of that. Thanks for all of that collective and institutional history. So we have some time left, and we would love to hear eye in the sky, all brainstorming ideas about what things people might like to identify as the official wards 4 and 7 priorities. And then I should also add, these are re-voted on each year. And so this is not a forever thing. It's just to kind of guide things for, I can't even tell you how many months, because I don't know yet when all the other wards are going to organize the citywide voting. So I'll take notes up here. I don't know if it's possible to move microphones around, but Kathleen, you have one?
Yes, as a newcomer, I need help understanding what a list of priorities might look like. Is there a charter for that explains why this organization even exists, what it was created for?
There is, and I don't have it prepared to speak on. I don't know what Bernie's actual specific vision and mission for these was when he created them. But I think it's a really good question about what's an example. And so I'm not going to get these exactly right. So take these examples with a grain of salt. But the wards who are up around UVM, wards 1 and 8, my understanding is that some of their priorities have to do with anything related to UVM housing. They need to be part of a discussion around, because those decisions made at a city level impact that neighborhood. So it's not saying that they get to weigh in on them. They don't get to sit at the city council table and vote, but they're in the process of communicating to their city councilors that they expect to be part of those discussions, and they would like city council to come and hear their thoughts before decisions are made. In our neighborhood, it might be something about, I don't know, changes to Letty Park, or changes to Ethan Allen Park, things like that that are unique to our neighborhood. And if people are like, this is something I really care about, and I want to make sure that city council understands we need a dialogue about it before decisions are made, that's the type of topic. But it really doesn't have to be limited to that. Those are just examples that I have heard. Sylvia?
One possible idea might be to make Ward 4 and Ward 7 pesticide free.
So I'm just going to be jotting. I'm going to be jotting everything down just to get an idea of what our ideas are. And we're not voting, but later we may just try to get like a show of hands to see which of these have more interest than others. Lynn?
Right now, my concern is better control on the safety of pedestrians and drivers and kids, and controlling the use of e-bikes and speeders. Just traffic in general, both with e-bikes and motorcycles, cars. Things are getting out of hand. I'd like to know who's monitoring and who's controlling this, because I never see police out there monitoring and stopping people. Even late into the evening, I'm hearing traffic, motorcycles going up and down the streets at all hours of the evening.
Thanks. One from Jane.
This gentleman here with the gray sweater, he talked about apartments or sweatshirt, about apartments being built in the Ethan Allen Park over there.
Yeah.
So, and my concern would be if they're considering building housing or using our public spaces to have housing, that is a main concern for all of us.
I think. Okay. I kind of in conjunction with that, I think I have really appreciated having different city officials and folks coming in and talking with us about certainly the citywide, kind of all the planning that's happening, and the piece that is so focused on the new North End. And so I would want that to continue. And I know that there are a number of ways that we can voice our concerns or things that we're in support of. So that it's not simply informing us, but I think that piece of giving us a voice in a number of ways around, especially around planning and the ideas around the new North End. So we want that to continue, and maybe there are some additional things that can be done where we feel like we have more of a voice, or a number of ways that we can voice concerns, whether it's in support of or not in support of some of the ideas. So
would it be accurate to word that as wanting to be kept abreast of development and ideas, or would it be more accurate to capture this as building more avenues to gather input, like the city building more avenues, no pun intended, to get input about development and planning?
Yes, because I think that, I feel like when they come, it's great. They're giving us lots of information. And I certainly have participated in a number of forums that they've had and gone on and looked at their website. But I think but I don't feel like there's often, when they do come here, it's often to inform. There's either not time, or could we create some additional ways during the presentations where we could weigh in that moment? Because I think, we're all pretty busy people, and just to simply say, go on our website, I think that's really important. We have to be responsible and accountable to go on the website and to look, and not just, give feedback in the moment, but ways to use the NPA meetings more actively around some of the planning and the feedback that we could provide.
Okay, thank you. Great. I've got 4 people lined up. Got someone in the back, then Martha, and you had one more, and then Lizzie. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think similar to what Sylvia said about pesticide, I think here in Wards 4 and Ward 7, we have a really unique opportunity and privilege to protect our lake. And we should really focus on that in our conversations and our planning, and thinking about green stormwater infrastructure and how we can weigh in as a community, what will work for us up here with how we live, how we garden, and how we engage with the lake in general.
Go ahead, Martha.
I'd like to be explicit about having
citizens involved in the planning, especially as we have a fair amount of park space in 4 and 7, and some of the suggestions that have been made would definitely affect the public space. So be on the planning board, in the planning process, I should say.
In previous NPA meetings years gone back, as part of the opening, we didn't have to introduce ourselves so personally. There was more time for someone to ask a stupid question that they're something that it's not necessarily stupid, but ask a question or have something explained to them that they came to the meeting for. So everyone here comes to the meeting because they know possibly the agenda, or they're concerned about something in the community, and they should, the open forum where you should be able to talk about a problem or a question of how come there's a new trail in Luddy Park and the Parks Department hasn't had the meeting that they need to have, or something like that. So I just want to give the opportunity for more democracy, open democracy in the room about minor things or major things.
Okay, so that is just good feedback for the steering committee to hear, because that's the kind of thing that could be changed without the resolution and the connection with city council. Are you also asking that you'd want like some kind of standing commitment from city council and elected officials to be present to answer the questions? If you're saying that an important aspect for you is the opportunity to ask them and then also get an answer?
Well, of course, but there was more representation on a regular basis from city councilors there and from Parks Department people. They would show up at meetings much more than they do now. And you didn't have to go onto the website, onto your phone, on, to things that are kind of alien to just have community conversations.
Thank you for clarifying that.
We have Lizzie lined up, and that was the last person that I had.
So Jane in the back.
And then if we can.
I was thinking, general, this is, candidate forums, and also, somehow promoting voter registration.
What? I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of that? What was it before promoting voter registration?
The candidates forums.
Thank you.
Thanks for scribing all of this, Annie. And we've got one last one from Jane.
I think this is a pie in the sky, but it's a dream. I moved here in 2000, and I feel like I'm a real Vermonter. I know people would argue with that, but I've lived in the New North End that entire time. And what I hunger for in this area is more of a sense of community. Like the food pantry isn't funded. They're a standalone. Where in any other part of the city, it's got funding from other places, okay? The senior center, they get some money from the city, but I almost feel like I live in a suburb here rather than in Burlington proper. And I've always wanted a place, I know it's growing, I know it's changing. That's I don't know how to put it in words exactly. Just more of like the Pine Street's been developed, or just a sense where we don't have to go all the way across town to get whatever we want, that's pie in the sky dream for me.
So how should I word that? More business development?
Yeah.
How to support and promote? Or is it like spaces for community, like outdoor spaces where people congregate, like community development?
And why is our, for a long time, I know the senior center was a standalone, not funded by anybody. They were making it on their own. I know now they get some city money.
Well, but it's the only senior center in the whole state that's not in a municipal budget.
That's what I'm talking about. I feel like this every town needs to be included.
So how to grow community?
Yeah, I don't know how to put it.
Okay, well,
Streets developed, they got all these cool places, but to New North End, I feel like I'm living in a suburb, that's the only.
okay.
Why don't we have some of that?
So like more of a centralized gathering space
Yeah.
to pull people together and not feel like a suburb.
Yeah.
Write that down, Annie.
It's sugar. It's good. This guy could help me out.
Are you just trying to put words to that?
I think what she's trying to get to is maybe envisioning what the ideal community, New North End, could look like. What don't we have that we want? You know, what do we want more of? What do we want a little less of? What does this part of the city, what would we envision it to look like in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think these are priorities that are connected to how the NPA interacts with like decisions that are being made in the city from pretty much the city council level. So I think that we're kind of having two conversations. If I'm hearing this, I don't know if other people are feeling this a little bit, like there are things that we just want more for us to do as a community. But the priorities are a little bit more like specific to decisions that are being made. But I think that they're both valuable.
I don't know how the city council weighs in on these decisions that are made. That's
City
what I
council
don't
meetings.
understand. So if anything ever came up in the city council that was related to that.
I think this is the first draft of this conversation, and so we're gonna hopefully be able to really figure out the details of it more and get our wording just right. I think, I could be wrong, but I think we get to pick and vote on like 5 priorities, so it's not just 1 or 2, and they change year to year. And one thing to imagine and dream about is what does now the city's side of this look like? So maybe, and I don't know how this decision gets made as the resolution is continuing to kind of like grow into being, but maybe it's saying from the city side, from the city councilor side, maybe we want updates on these things. So maybe it's not decisions being made, but like what updates are there about something that fits under the umbrella of like a public gathering space that builds community? It could be something like that. And Charlie, you had something, and then I think we'll have to start to wrap up.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion for, so there's a lot of discussion going on in Burlington right now about private streets. So every time the city council talks about private streets, see, that would be one of their priorities. So the NPA would be notified that they're talking or planning about something to do with private streets.
Thank you, Charlie. And also because you are not in Ward 4 and 7, does anybody in Ward 4, but does Ward 4 and 7, anybody say yes? Put that on the board.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so something could be, like you said, our priority could be a quarterly update from city council about a specific topic, or that could be something that we vote on. And I think it makes sense to mention that we haven't done a lot of voting here, but that's something that we, especially with this kind of discussion, will be part of our NPAs more frequently. That will give people more of a voice when they're here. And that's something that we'll warn before the meeting so that you know it's on the agenda. We're planning to vote on something. So if you can make it and you care about this, show up to this meeting because we will be voting on it. But that's just kind of something that I know happens in other wards more often. And that will be part of this whole process. But like Annie said, it's just kind of first draft right now. So.
And Steve reminded me, we really should be shouting out and appreciating Charlie because he also really supports these meetings to happen. And also you have so much just really good institutional knowledge and history. And we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we're getting past 8 o'clock. So I wanted to just invite us to adjourn the meeting. Talk about June really quick. Don't leave super quick. But Sal, did you want to make this announcement?
Oh, you wanted me to?
Yeah, that's how we do it on the steering committee.
All right, June is going to be the big one. We're going to have lots of people running for office, talking what
presenting and it's gonna, oh, you want me to come up there? Oh, yes.
Can you, when is the hold the microphone?
And hold it really close to my mouth. Do you all hear me? All right. Hello, everybody. So it's gonna start earlier next month. It's gonna be at 5:30. So we'll have to get these tables out earlier. What's the date? The 24th. So I'm sure there's gonna be wonderful food. It's gonna be kind of a party, but a lot of people want to speak also. And
What kind
wait, we're finished in July and August. We're not gonna have any meetings in July and August because everybody's so busy. So we're gonna go out big for the summer in June. And Steve wants to say something right now.
Yeah, so we've already, at last month's steering committee meeting, we agreed to up the budget for food for the June one. And I'm gonna make a ton of ice cream. And I think, what's your name is coming back?
Miss Wieners?
Yeah, Miss Wiener's coming back and we'll do something else. It'll be a lot more food. And I'm gonna make a ton of homemade ice cream. We'll have an ice cream social. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming here. Thanks.
Because we're taking time off for the summer, we'll encourage people to, make connections, share contacts. And there will be people who are running for different offices for the August primaries.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.